Hey everyone, Andy Stickle here. I want to show you something real quick that I've had happen a couple times, and it's just something kind of to keep in mind. I don't know if you're, it's not a lot of stuff that people can usually do about this issue, but it might be something that you can kind of keep in mind if you're ever planning on moving your office or if you're ever looking to get a second address. A lot of times people want to appear in these maps right here. So for example, I've got Orlando personal injury lawyer. Everyone that lives in Orlando or in the Orlando suburbs wants to appear for Orlando personal injury lawyer. So the problem is that let's say you live in Winter Park, Florida, or let's say your office is in Winter Park, Florida, which is a suburb of Orlando. So Winter Park personal injury lawyer. The problem is that a lot of times, and I'm going to say about 99.9999% of the time, when you show up in the maps here for a geo search like Orlando, it's because you have at Orlando in your address. Same thing for Winter Park. When you click here, if you take a look at this, these are all the ones here. These are all going to be Winter Park addresses. Winter Park, Florida. Winter Park, Florida. Winter Park, Florida. So what a lot of people don't realize is they kind of have this false expectation that they're going to show up in this maps for a location that they do not have, that their office is not located in. So, for example, if you're in Oviedo, which is, I mean, Oviedo is a very small area. It's in Orlando, or it's just say it's a suburb of Orlando. Same thing with Winter Park. Same thing with Winter Springs. Same thing with, I'm trying to think what some of the other areas are in Orlando. But all these areas, if you don't actually have an Orlando address, you're not going to show up in an Orlando map. So same thing if, let's say these guys, Colin, Gilbert, Wright, and Carter, want to show up in a Winter Park search, they're not going to show up in a Winter Park search because it's Orlando, Orlando, Orlando. So same thing with Winter Park. Now let's say if we have Winter Springs. So here's, see these guys are, they don't even have a website. Winter Springs, and then Longwood. Now sometimes if there's no other Winter Springs, then you can kind of do it. But let's go back to Google here and see. All right, so we got an ad here, and then we got, I remember this one, and we got this one, and then you got, which one was that? Sunner and Sunner. Sunner and Sunner. Now, I think the reason this showed up is because it doesn't have, I think the reason that it showed up is because it doesn't have any other Winter Springs competition. Let's see if we see any other Winter Springs. I don't see any other Winter Springs, but Winter Springs also isn't a very big area, and most people are not going to be really competitive over Winter Springs. Now, where you can show up is more places. So I know that I have clients in, for example, in a small city in Texas. Actually, I have a client who's in McAllen, Texas, or he's in Edinburgh, Texas, and he wants to show up in McAllen, Texas. So we can get him to appear in the maps in the More Places section with his Edinburgh address in McAllen. But to get in this 3-pack right here, you have to make sure that you actually have an address in that area. Now, one place that it's a little different is unincorporated areas. An unincorporated area is an area such as a county that doesn't actually have, somewhere that you're not actually going to have in your address. So for example, Orange County, California. No one has an address that is Orange County, California. California also has some areas like, there's an area called Inland Empire, which includes a lot of different areas like San Bernardino and Riverside, and that whole area is called the Inland Empire. Same thing with San Diego, has a lot of places. San Diego has an area called North County. That I don't believe anybody actually has a North County address, but people search North County personal injury attorney, North County, DUI lawyer, all that kind of stuff. So, for example, Orange County DUI lawyer. If you look at this, this happens to be our client right here, but if you click that, you can see he's located Irvine, California. Here's Irvine, California. Here's Tustin, California. Let's say we do Orange County bankruptcy lawyer. You're going to get Santa Ana, Brea, Orange. So these are areas that are unincorporated. Same thing if we do, let's say, Inland Empire. not getting maps for that. Let's say car accident lawyer. Not getting maps for that either. Might be my location. Personal injury attorney. No, not getting there either. All right, well, Inland Empire, I promise, is an area. Let's try North County. Talk about San Diego. North County. Okay, well, I'm located, as you can see. This shows me searching in Willow Oak, Florida. So let's do one more search here before we'll call this a fail. North County, California. Okay, here we go. So that pulled that up. North County. Now, San Marcos, Oceanside. These are all areas of San Diego, northern San Diego. So that just kind of goes to show you, and a lot of times, kind of the reason I'm creating this video is because I want to show some I want to kind of let you understand what to expect with a website. You know, so a lot of times people have an address like Winter Springs, Florida, and their entire website is optimized for Orlando, Florida, and they're never going to rank. Because it's almost impossible. I've seen it maybe one time. I'm sure that somebody will watch this video and say, "Oh, I was able to do it," but it's extremely difficult. So you know, that's what I was saying with the Winter Springs area. You've got this one because Winter Springs isn't very complicated. It's not very competitive. You've probably got a pretty strong listing here, and you know, there's just no other competition. But Orlando, not going to happen. You know, Dallas, Chicago, Boston, not going to happen. If you don't have an address that actually has that city in it, it's just not going to happen. So the way around that is you work with unincorporated. So for example, if I'm in Oviedo, I know I can't get Orange County. I'm sorry, I know I can't get Orlando, but I can probably get Seminole County, and Seminole County is a good one. So it's not as heavily searched as Orlando, but it's probably more heavily searched than Oviedo. So just wanted to throw that quick tip out there. Hit me up in the comments if you have any questions, and I'll talk to you soon.